Hi little foxes, today we're going to read a new story and it's called Mrs. Rainbow. It's written by Neil Griffiths and it's illustrated by Judith Blake. I've got my special friend Felix Fox here with me. Have you got yours? Then let's begin. Mrs. Rainbow. This is the house where Mrs. Rainbow lives. Just wait till you see what it's like inside. She had painted the kitchen bright green, the conservatory a warm orange, and the sitting room soothing shades of yellow. Upstairs, the bathroom is ocean blue, the study a welcoming red, and the guest room a restful violet. Mrs. Rainbow's own bedroom, however, is decorated one of her favourite colours, indigo, and there you will find every shade of purple imaginable. Mrs. Rainbow is never happier than when relaxing in her garden. Here she is now, sitting in her favourite spot, enjoying a glass of cool lemonade. She loves the garden at all times of the year, with the reds, golds and browns of autumn, the silvers and white of winter, and the yellows, purples and greens of spring. But summer is Mrs. Rainbow's favourite season, and today her garden looks its best. However, Mrs. Rainbow can't relax too long today, as the village school is holding a car boot sale, and she's keen to get there early to pick up some bargains. She is first to arrive, and can hardly wait to get started. Nothing excites Mrs. Rainbow more than the thought of finding something unexpected, so she can add it to her colourful home. After an hour's hunting, she emerges smiling from the school playground, clutching a burgundy patchwork cushion for the study, a bright orange candle for the conservatory, a purple mug for a nighttime hot chocolate drink, and a turquoise soap dish. She'll have to decide later whether this will be for the bathroom or the kitchen. On her way home, the sky begins to cloud over and light drizzle begins to fall. By the time she reaches her house, it has turned into a very grey day indeed, and Mrs. Rainbow is glad to get inside. On days like this, Mrs. Rainbow usually keeps busy, working on her latest painting, or putting the finishing touches to a tapestry. Sometimes she just sits and watches the tropical fish, dazzled by their stunning colours. Today is different. Mrs. Rainbow had hardly got her coat off before she rushes upstairs to try out her new hair colour that she's bought from the chemist. The bottle says Bermuda Blonde, but as she emerges from the wash basin, blonde it certainly is not. It's more like peacock green. Perfect, thinks Mrs. Rainbow as she admires herself in the bathroom mirror. She had barely finished drying her hair when there's a loud knock at the front door. She's greeted by three somewhat startled members of the District Council Planning Department, shocked perhaps by the colour of Mrs. Rainbow's hair or by her matching outfit. Good afternoon, madam, stutters a stout gentleman wearing a black pinstripe suit and bowler hat. He explains that they are from the planning department and hands a letter to Mrs. Rainbow to read. To the occupant of Rainbow Cottage. At our recent monthly planning meeting, it was decided that your house, Rainbow Cottage, is not in keeping with the rest of the village. It was agreed that the cottage is far too colourful and must be immediately painted grey to match all the other buildings. Signed, the District Council Planning Committee. Mrs. Rainbow tries to protest, as she loves her little cottage and thought everybody else did. But the councillors will not change their decision and say that they're sorry, but rules are rules, and the painting will start work in the morning. As they leave, Mrs. Rainbow looks sadly at the houses in the village beyond, before removing her house sign and gently closing the door behind her. As promised, the painters arrived promptly the following morning and quickly set to work. They too feel sad, but are only following the council's orders. Mrs. Rainbow is nowhere to be seen, and the curtains to the cottage remain strangely drawn all day. News quickly spreads to the other villagers through Mrs. Braithwaite, who almost rides her bicycle off the road and through the hedge when she catches sight of the newly painted cottage. Soon, a large, inquisitive crowd of people gather outside, hardly able to believe their eyes. It is the Reverend Fowler who finally plucks up enough courage to knock on the door and ask Mrs. Rainbow how she is feeling. After some time, she appears, looking pale and grey. She thanks the villagers for their concern and says that she's feeling a little off colour today, before returning to the darkness of the cottage. The worried villagers hurry to Village Hall, where a special meeting has been called to discuss the situation. Several hours later, they emerge looking very pleased with themselves. Early the next morning, even before the sun had risen, a long queue had formed outside Fred Stanley's DIY store. It seems as if the whole village is there. The following day, the Reverend Fowler, accompanied by a large crowd, arrives outside Mrs. Rainbow's cottage. He knocks on the door and asks her to step out into the front garden, since they have a surprise which will bring colour back into her life. Mrs. Rainbow, still looking pale and grey, shuffles nervously out of the doorway and stands in silent amazement. She can hardly believe her eyes. The Reverend Fowler had painted the vicarage purple and plum, whilst the post office in a startling scarlet, Jean's hair salon in a now pastel shades of lilac and peach, the Crossroads Cafe a rich maroon, and the library emerald green. In fact, every house and building in the village has been painted in the most glorious colours. Even the church had a bright new yellow steeple. Tears streamed down Mrs. Rainbow's face. She has never seen anything so beautiful. "You did all this for me?" she asked, and the villagers nod and smile proudly. Mrs. Rainbow sits staring at the patchwork of colours until darkness falls. She reluctantly makes her way indoors, feeling very happy indeed. Several days later, the district councillors return to the cottage with another important letter for Mrs. Rainbow to read. To Mrs. Rainbow. At our monthly planning meeting, it was decided unanimously that your unnamed house is not in keeping with the rest of the village. It was agreed that your cottage is far too dull and should be painted in the brightest colours immediately. Signed, the District Council Planning Committee. Mrs. Rainbow can hardly contain her excitement and hugs each of the councillors, much to their embarrassment, before rushing into the village to tell everyone the wonderful news. After a visit to Fred Stanley's DIY store, she invites the whole village to a painting party to thank them for their kindness. The cottage is soon restored to its original beauty. And that afternoon, the villagers enjoy a delicious and colourful afternoon tea. The party is briefly interrupted by a sudden change in weather. A summer shower forces everyone to rush inside. However, on their return to the garden, they are treated to a beautiful surprise. As Mrs. Rainbow admires the colourful scene, she notices that not only the weather is changing. The end. Well, thank you so much for joining me for my story today. I really enjoyed that, Felix. I hope you did too. Bye. See you soon. Hey Felix, I think we should go and get your paints and paint our house in rainbow colours. I think that would look outstanding.